I would say, tragedy of a life the past 3, 4 years, where I went through a horrific divorce. I lost my first business. I describe it as a business agreement. You're like, I love this person so much that I am going to give them half of everything that I own. I just couldn't take the emotional abuse anymore. It was squealing and roaring, and you're not good enough, and this no one likes you. And I remember my wee boy coming in his wee Spider-Man pajamas, and he handed me my blankie and was like, "Don't worry, Mama, he doesn't mean all those bad things. I look after you." And I looked at him and I thought in my head, I'm not putting you through this anymore. I'm always so grateful for the first 10 years because I got to experience real love without, you know, Snapchat and Instagram and all these like micro cheating apps. I have OCD since I was 8 and on medication since I was 16. And in my marriage, during arguments, it was thrown in my face. It was like, "Did you take your medication today? You're nuts, you're mad. Even your doctors say you're mad." I was waking up in the middle of the night squealing, thinking that we were all going to be murdered and things. And sometimes you need the trauma to become a better person, I feel, as well. And for you to start living your life authentically and for you and not for anyone else.
Welcome back to Life in Depth. I'm Ryan McDade, and on this episode, I have a lady called Jenna McCusker, who's from Derry. Jenna talks about her story, the struggles she's had being in a relationship where it was abusive, going through divorce, breaking her back, and what she's learned through it. She also has her own podcast called Mental Health and Me, now known as My Life and Me, where she brings on guests who share stories that others can learn from who've been through tough times. She's also an entrepreneur and has plenty of lessons to share. I hope you enjoy. Jenna, a pleasure to have you today. How's things with you?
All good. Thank you so much for having me down.
Obviously, I've seen you on your own podcast,
Yeah.
Mental Health and Me.
Mhm.
So, what inspired you to start that?
So I based Mental Health and Me on the concept of my, I would say, tragedy of a life the past 3, 4 years, where I went through a horrific divorce. I lost my first business, attempted suicide, and then when I decided to try and love again, I had a medical emergency where I broke my back and I was paralyzed from the waist down. I was told I was never going to walk again and all that, but after months in hospital and months of I'm still on rehabilitation actually for it. I am walking again. I'm slight lump, but we're walking. Bowel, bladder, all internal. They're all paralyzed still. So I just remember when I was in hospital, when I was paralyzed, thinking, I was praying away, thinking, if I get better, I'll help other people. And I don't know what I meant by that. And when I started getting better, people started coming up to me and asking how I was doing and saying, "Oh, they were like, you're so strong, you're so amazing," and they were telling me their story, and I was like, "There's no one talking about this. Like, it's all hush hush private. No one wants to talk about divorce. No one wants to talk about losing their business, and I suppose you don't really hear about people breaking their back, I suppose. But so I thought, why not put this on a podcast, and then other people will feel less lonely. So that's where the concept for mental health and me came from.
Yeah. Why do you think people don't want to talk about it?
Divorce in
Yeah,
general.
yeah, divorce.
Well, I mean, I don't like talking about it either because it's kind of like a bit of a shame there that you know your marriage didn't work out. And in my house, all my sisters are married to their husbands, and I'm like, why me? What did I do wrong? But it wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong. But I suppose there is a bit of shame about divorce, and then it's the whole battle of trying to divorce someone. So it's crazy the lengths that you have to go to actually remove yourself from a marriage legally, emotionally, financially
Hmm.
is so hard. And I think people just try and keep it to themselves. And since I've started speaking about it, I feel a lot more people have started started speaking up about it. I get a lot of messages, male and female,
Mm.
from both ends, asking, how did you deal with it in this situation? And, how would you deal with it in that situation? So, um, when I was going through divorce, I was looking for podcasts and I was typing in divorce podcasts and anything to try and help me. And it was all American that were coming up, and they weren't helpful because American's totally different to us, and it just wasn't helping. So I thought, right, there is a gap already for me to start a conversation about. So that was the divorce part of it.
The foundation
Mm.
of starting
Yeah.
it. I suppose there is a lot of shame about it too. But if you look at it from a practical point of view, like getting married it's the same in the sense of you're in a relationship with someone,
Yeah.
but obviously there's a lot more legal
Yes.
stuff, and I suppose when people break up with a partner when it's not married, it's kind of a little different,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
just because there's a lot of admin and legal stuff
Uh,
tied, it's there's a lot more to it, I
it's almost
suppose.
like I describe it as a business agreement.
Mm,
And you enter this business agreement with, you're like, I love this person so much that I am going to give them half of everything that I own. And then obviously when the going gets tough and then you both hit each other, it's chaotic. So I just, now looking back, for me, obviously I'm never going to get married again. I'll never
why
get
is
married
that?
again. Just because of everything that I had already been through. And I feel that if I am in a relationship with someone, I'd probably get engaged. I'd make that commitment. But if I'm in a relationship with someone, it is a committed relationship anyway. There doesn't need to be a ring. There doesn't need to be a signed paperwork or, assets signed over, anything like that. I think that's just my views on it now, looking
Mm,
back. Probably when I was a young girl growing up, I would have, wanted to get married and couldn't wait for the big day itself and stuff. But after knowing how tough marriage is, relationships and, alone are tough. But I mean, trying to, I suppose, get out of a marriage it's so hard.
mm,
It's
mm.
so hard. It's almost impossible.
And do you speak about, the details of what that was like, the divorce or
Um,
the background of it?
I don't really, a lot of people say to me, you should tell the story about that. So it was, um, what type of marriage? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I suppose what led to the divorce.
So we both met really young. I was only 18, so it was like my first proper boyfriend, and we were madly in love, which, we don't get on now, obviously. We're divorced. We hate each other. But I'm so grateful for, the first 10 years, I would say. So we were together 15 years. The last 5 years should never have, I should have left 5 years before I actually did. But I'm always so grateful for the first 10 years because I got to experience real love without, you know, Snapchat and Instagram and all these like micro cheating apps. And I got to travel the world with him, and we lived in New York, and then I had my son with him, and my son's amazing. So I'm always grateful for that portion of the
Mm,
marriage. But the last 5 years of the marriage became really emotionally, um, verbally abusive, him towards me, to the point that I, I was, he was saying my family didn't like me. Your sister told me this about you. They don't like you, but don't say anything to them. So I couldn't go to them and say, why do you not like me? So I would kind of just keep them at arm's length. And it was happening with friends. And then by that stage, I'd started my first business. That was my business. And he knew that I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore because I found out that he had an affair, allegedly, we'll say. But the girl kindly messaged me to let me know. Um, and I stayed in the marriage because I just thought, I'm bound. It's like a contract. Like I was thinking, oh my God, the house, the business, the cars, our child, it's just so much to leave. I just live with them until our son's 18 and then we'll figure something out. That's how mentally put down I was, that was my mind frame back then. But the final break was then it was, I just couldn't take the emotional abuse anymore. It was squealing and roaring and you're not good enough and this no one likes you, and it was just awful, and it was slowly but surely trying to push me out of my own business. so that he could take over it, which I didn't realize that he was doing at the time now when I look back. Um, I Most of the things that happened, I would probably have thought it all happened on my mind if it wasn't seen by, my staff, my family. Things happened in front of people. So his mask was slipping towards them when he realized that I told him, I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you. I, there's nothing more that we can do for, this marriage kind of thing. And it escalated then the emotional and verbal abuse. So, but people often talk about as well, Ryan, when you leave, like say a toxic relationship or whatever, people would say, "Oh, that's brilliant, well done." The next day, "That's amazing, well done." No, go out now and go on Tinder, go out and party. Like, no, you still go through the grief of the loss of a relationship. It's not just because it was toxic that you're going to go out and celebrate and go on Tinder, and that's not the mind frame that you be in. It took me a long time to recover after the marriage itself, because it was 15 years of traditions, and Christmas was coming up, so it would have been my first Christmas as a single parent, and there was a lot of firsts. And although the last 5 years were so mentally abusive, you would always think of the good times. But there was many times that we went back and forward, and he would say that he would change and try and change, and it just never did. So that's why the marriage ended.
Do you have an idea as why, you talked about a good time there
Mm.
and then it changed?
Definitely the birth of my son changed everything. So we were together about 10 years when our son was born. Um, and he would say things like, "You pay him more attention than me." And I would be like, "He's ours. We have to take him everywhere." And he would say things like, "Get someone to watch him. I want to go for lunch," which is what we would have done, before having a child. We would have just got up and done what we wanted because we were kid free. And I just don't think that he realized that being a parent meant a whole change of life then for us. And he that I so it started then, and then the first time we separated was actually our son's christening night. Um, we had an event planned, and it was like he organized it all, so it was very big up and showy and lots of people there and whatever. And obviously, I'd only had my child 6 weeks before that, so didn't want to even be out. He ended up leaving the christening and heading into the town with the girl. So he was seen by my sister. So that was the first kind of that I should have left then, but it wasn't until five years later that I finally got to leave then.
I mean, it sounds like it wasn't an easy time.
No,
It
no.
sounds difficult. Like, I suppose you just had a kid at the time too, so
It was so hard to navigate. Having children, as you know, is hard. I really struggled becoming a mommy, and I don't think a lot of women talk about that either enough. I think people post the good and then we're comparing, because I used to do it. I used to go, "Why is their child sleeping all night and she's at the gym already, and this her baby's doing this, that, and the other," and I was comparing it to me, and I felt like that I was struggling, and I felt like that I was the only mommy that was struggling. But the more I talk about it now, people are like, "Oh my God, it's the hardest thing." Becoming a mommy, especially, I can only speak from a mother's point of view. It is so, so difficult, and nothing can prepare you for the change in your life that a child makes.
you spoke about, being in a relationship that you say was abusive.
Mm.
How, how did you get the strength to make a decision, say this is not what I want anymore?
Mm. So now I need to have some hold my hands up and say that I probably wasn't the easiest to live with towards the end. I was never abusive, physically, verbally abusive, or anything. I actually went mute. I just would not talk to him because I didn't want, he would just argue and shout more, more, more. And I just wanted the shouting to stop. So I went mute, and I- it, I couldn't communicate with him. There was no communication. It was just a shouting match if I did. So probably in him, I could have spoke up and just said more like, "I don't want to be with you," and that's it, and we'll make plans. And instead, I shut down and allowed it to keep happening. But the day that I finally walked away was when I went on to have keyhole surgery for ladies things. It was, and he was to collect me at 8 o'clock that night, and he wasn't there, and his phone was off. And I was just after this procedure. I was fasting for 24 hours. I was like starving and hungry and thirsty and sore. And an hour later, he finally pulls up, and he's like, "Why are you standing there, mate?" Can I curse?
I mean, if you want, work away.
This is his words. Why are you standing there with a fucking fist on you like that? And I was like, bent over, and our son was on the car as well. So I was like, mute. I just wanted to get home and to my own bed. Didn't want anything to happen in front of our son. And he started driving at like 100 miles an hour. And I was like, can we slow down? And, I didn't want to become too upset about it because of my son as well. And I was like holding on, and I was like, can we stop at the shop? I'm really thirsty, I'm really hungry. And he's like, no, you're not stopping, you're going home, you're not getting off, and you fuck you, this, you, that. And I was like, please slow down, I'm just after surgery. And he done this almighty emergency stop. Everything in the car in the back came flying in, and my wound busted open, and the blood just started pouring out. And I just thought, I can't do, like, I literally cannot do this. And he pulled up to the house. He stormed into the house and left our 3-year-old to help me with my bags and me and do my bed. And I remember my wee boy coming in his wee Spider-Man pajamas, and he handed me my blanket and was like, don't worry, Mama, he doesn't mean all those bad things. I look after you. And I looked at him and I thought in my head, I'm not putting you through this anymore. I am not. No, this is it. So it was. I the next day, I says, look, one of us has to leave the house. The marriage is over. It can't go on anymore. And he was saying, I want the house, but you and him can go somewhere else on about our son. And I was like, I've nowhere to really take him. So I left. I checked on the Premier Inn on the waterside. I rang my mommy, and I was like, look, just want to let you know, because all my family knew what was happening. They were begging me to leave, but I've learned recently, quite recently actually, it actually takes someone 7 times to leave a relationship before they actually leave. And that's probably what was happening to me.
So 7 times isn't like you can't only leave the house and go away for a night or
Aye,
whatever.
aye. So it's 7 times forward and back before the final cut. And I just remember my mom was saying, you're doing the right thing. It's going to be hard, but you've got us and whatever. And I think I was only there a few hours, and he texted and said, you need to come back and sort out this Wayne. I don't know what to do with him. So I went back, and he moved out then.
Do you get many people messaging you then, contacting you about these types of scenarios?
Yeah,
Yeah.
constantly.
Men as
Yeah,
well?
men. Yeah, I actually get stopped in the street a lot, and it is mostly with men, and they would say things like, what, I wouldn't want to message, what men are like, and I was like, no, I know what yous are supposed to be like, but the amount of men that actually do open up, um, face to face, is amazing to me, and it's great, and I love that people would ask me, not I can't give anyone advice, but I can give them pointers or help, or what I did in a certain situation or whatever. But definitely more men than women, believe it or
Really?
not.
Yeah.
Aye.
I know it goes both ways, but sometimes men, I think, are afraid to
Mm.
talk out because it's like they just don't think it's like I suppose it's not masculine.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they're afraid to say that their partner, their woman's been abusive
Yeah.
towards them,
Yeah.
and that's that because I am aware of people who are in them
Mm-hmm.
kind of situations, not in my immediate circle, but just
Yeah.
out and about, and yeah, they just never seem to speak up about it, like,
No,
you
no,
know.
they don't. And that's that's the thing. Men are supposed to be these breadwinners, the head of the house, the one in charge, and that exactly what you're saying. That's why they don't speak up, not only about you know their marriages, but in anything really. Like
Mm,
they feel like they can't show any type of emotion. They have to have it all held together, but we're only human.
mm-hmm.
You know, there's only so much one person can take,
Yeah,
male or female,
yeah,
or in
yeah.
between it, you know. So,
It's definitely a thing of men holding emotions in, you
mm,
know. But the work that you do then on the podcast, obviously you're bringing people in, having these kinds of
mm.
conversations. How do you find that? How do you find it's been helping you?
Do you know what? I do again get a lot of people saying, you know, thank you for doing this, and because it's voluntary as well. It's, out of my own money, and I just wanted to give people with their story a platform that other people will feel less alone. That's the whole aim of it, that people feel less alone in what they're going through. So my podcast is all different ranges of it was what mental health for me. Remember, I was saying I recently had to change the name to My Life for Me, which is crazy because um I have a lot of guests that wanted to come on, but they were like, I'm not sure about the mental health thing because I don't want people to think I was mad. And I was like, oh, this is the whole point of the podcast, is to remove this stigma, of you're mad because you have a mental health problem. No. So uh, towards the end of Mental Health and Me season one, I had to take a break. So I just said, let's call it season one. Let's not tell anyone I'm
Did you
taking a break.
plan to do like a season, or did you just feel the need to take a
I
break?
had I felt the need to take a break. I
Why?
thought it was
Why?
just a bit consistent. Um, Mostly because of the emotional load of the stories that the guests were telling me. Like, it's off camera, the things that they would say is
Mm.
awful. And, you know, I have
Why?
my
Why do you feel that they wouldn't say them, say, on camera?
mostly legal reasons. And I couldn't really allow people to say people's names and what they'd done specifically to them, naming that person, if that makes sense. So they would open up more off camera, and I
Mm.
prefer it that way, so I don't
Yes,
get
yes.
sued and
Yeah.
they don't get sued. But what we were talking about there now?
Just about the guests and the overload.
Oh yes, the season break. So um, obviously have my own business as well, House of Sense, that I make all the products for that, and I'm a single mommy, and then the new podcast launched today. So I was like, right, let's take a break from this. It was really serious, heavy. And then we will focus on what road to go down for season two, because I felt like the mental health thing needed changed and do a more life story, because that's what it was becoming anyway. And when people were saying to me, "Oh, I'd love to come on, but I don't suffer from mental health problems," and then I'd be like, "Oh, but like, are you a daddy?" And they'd be like, "Oh, but I this happened, this happened, this happened." And I'm like, "Well, you've went through mental health. We go through mental health situations every day without knowing it. Moving home.
I truly believe, I
I,
mean, everyone is
mm,
your looking after your mental
I,
well-being is a daily challenge. Like,
I." But some people think that, "Oh no, mental health is no, I don't have any mental," and I'm like, "You're wrong. Sorry, but you're wrong."
mm,
So, but they will come on My Life and Me.
yes,
So I'm happy enough with that. I am sad that mental health is so stigmatized still. I just hate that. And unfortunately, I feel that it will always be stigmatized, to an extent. I have OCD since I was 8 and on medication since I was 16. And in my marriage, during arguments, it was thrown in my face. It was like, "Did you take your medication today? You're nuts, you're mad, even your doctors say you're mad," So it was constantly thrown in your face.
when you say OCD, like what? How does that affect you?
Well, right now it's under control because I take medication for it. But my OCD was counting numbers. And so, for example, every day going upstairs, I would have to count the stairs going up them, even though I know there's 11 steps in my house. There will always be 11 steps. I have to count them. And if I didn't, then I truly believe that someone would come in and murder my family. So, in order for me to protect my family, I had to do this. And then it moved on to doors, like doors having to be closed. Doors is still kind of a big thing for me, having to be closed at all times, tight, like they couldn't even be a millimeter. Same reason, someone will come in and kill my whole entire family. So my OCD kind of started.
From like what age did you
So
have these thoughts?
about 8, about 8, but it really escalated when my son was born. when he was born, it was like everything that I was doing was in order to protect him. If that makes sense.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense, but it does in an OCDer's head,
So even
you
though,
would say.
but did you truly believe that that would
Yeah,
happen? You truly believed that
yeah.
that could happen, that
Hmm.
if you didn't do that,
Mm.
and then the medication.
I went to, because I was in, Grangewood Psychiatric Hospital in the Waterside. I was in there in 2013 because I had a mental breakdown, but it was masking the OCD my whole life. They thought I had depression, but it works out that I had OCD and I was masking it. So once I spent a week in there, and it was so helpful. Once we're getting on the medication, getting that all changed, but that I no, it was it was really really scary.
I was going to say, like, when you went into
Mm,
the psychiatric
yeah.
like unit, what was the process there?
So that was back in 2013. I was struggling for months, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where I never wanted to take my life then. I was like, I wanted to live, but I just didn't want to live like that. So I remember having a conversation with my partner at the time and my mommy, and they were like, right, maybe it's time then, that we get you help. And when I was telling them that I was really scared of people coming in to murder my family, they thought it was like some type of psychosis maybe, but it wasn't. It was the OCD. And that week that I was on there, it was very structured. It was very, you're up at this time, you eat at this time, you're fully dressed, you have activities to do. You're mingling with other people who have the same condition as you. So you're not feeling alone.
Mm.
And that's when I realized, right, this is kind of normal. It's abnormal thinking, but it is normal part of OCD. So we managed to tweak the medication for a couple of years then after that. And then I did find a good balance until my son was born. And then again, it was just more trying different medications, but also me doing a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
You can't just take medication and lie in your bed hoping that it's going to work. It's not. You need to do the work, use the tools. I went to therapy a lot. Um, I would walk a lot. I would, be doors a lot. If I ever feel overly stressed, I can feel my OCD starting to, ramp up again. And I know the tools now that I've been taught over the years to bring me back.
Yes, yes. So you were 16 at that time, was it?
In 2013, I was 23.
Okay. It was the medication at 16.
Yes, so
But
I was on medication for 16
okay.
for, they thought, so when you're eight, way back then, in 1998, that would have been, I was saying to my mommy, I was hearing voices and stuff, and there was no Google, and God love my mommy. She's four daughters as well, and she must have been very confused. She must have thought I was just like mentally like unwell. I was a mentally unwell child. Like, my sisters will tell me stories about things that I was waking up in the middle of the night squealing, thinking that we were all going to be murdered and things. And it was so hard because I was so young and I was
Mm.
going into school and having to, try and learn with all these thoughts in my head and making sure the door was closed in the class, and counting the stairs in school. And it was just constant, constant, constant um, counting. And then at the age of 16, then I think mommy started taking it a wee bit more seriously. And I was like, I can't live like this no more. I don't want to be here anymore, kind of thing. It's hard to love.
Mm.
It's exhausting to love with. And that's when antidepressants were described or prescribed then.
Yes,
So
yes.
I've been on medication since I've been 16.
Yes,
Aye.
yes. How did you feel at that time going into the unit? 23. Were you like, sometimes when we're young, we care what other people think.
Mm.
Was there was there that feeling, or
Um,
is it like, this is good for me? This is what I need.
I knew that it was what I needed. Definitely. I was very secluded as well back then because that's what happens when mental illness, you cut people out of your life and you lose friends and you sometimes lose your family. But my family, my sisters are so, thank God for them, because I wouldn't be the woman I am today without my mom and my sisters and their help and interventions and stuff. But I just remember going in and everything being taken off me, like my belt and my shoelaces, and I couldn't understand why. And that's how mentally unwell I was. And then when I went in to my room, the doors didn't close fully because it's a safety thing. But that was my OCD issue. So then I was like, oh my God, the doors don't close, someone's going to come out and murder us. So, and I think that's when they started realizing then it's intrusive thoughts and OCD. It's not psychosis,
Mm.
that this girl has. But being in there was really, really scary because there was a lot of mentally unwell people, like, I mean, severely, who were having psychosis. Like, there was a girl in there who truly believed she was Bobby Sands. And she came out to me one day and she was like, do you know who I am? And I was like, no. And bearing in mind, I was really mentally unwell then too. So she was like, I'm Bobby Sands. And I was like, but he's dead. Instead of being like, no, you're
Mm.
not. Like, I was like trying to figure out, is it really Bobby? What's
Mhm.
going on? Is it the medication making me think, or is this real? So it was very hard. It was really difficult, but I really feel that at the end of it, it was worth it. I
Mm.
needed it.
And you said the word intrusive thoughts, so
Mm,
I'm aware that a lot of people suffer
mm,
from intrusive thoughts, and but they're really taken by that and afraid of them thoughts.
yeah.
But I think it's not that it's normal, but we all get intrusive thoughts
Mm,
a lot. I mean, I get them too. It's just
yeah.
like, the conclusion I've come to is like, I don't always believe that the thoughts are ours. We may receive them. So like, I also think that humanities, we're all like we're one. So
Yeah.
like, there's this one consciousness, and
Right.
it's just this pool of energy and thoughts that are all moving around
Right.
between all of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just different thoughts are being crossed over into each other, and we're all receiving them. But sometimes people, um, they hold people back,
Yeah.
and they that thought comes in, and then
Mm,
they let that thought take hold.
yeah.
It sounds like that's what kind of.
I think if you're having an intrusive thought once and it's gone, then that's just an intrusive thought. But if you're having it repeatedly to the point where it's affecting you
Mhm.
mentally and affecting your day-to-day living, then that's when it's becoming an issue.
Yes.
So intrusive thoughts are quite normal. You're
Yeah.
right in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Everybody would have at least probably one a day, I would say. But the repetitiveness of
Yes.
it, and then that's what would lead to the exhaustion and the burnout and you know
Yeah, because
the
a lot of
needing
people
the help.
retreat to their bedrooms, and
Yeah.
it's just their safe space,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
I
they don't know how to overcome that.
No.
Yeah.
And it's so hard then because you've kind of if you let it go and go and go and build up, it's snowballing, and then it's harder to get free
Mm.
from. And I think that's what happened me back in 2013.
Mhm.
Whereas now I know if I'm starting to, roll again, the tools to bring me back.
You also speak about having humor through the dark times.
Yes.
Why is that?
Do you know what? I think I think I'm really funny, but I just I can't I can't speak about things and be the victim in it, if that makes sense. Like what happened to me, it was really, really tough and horrible, but I don't like talking about it as in a, oh my God, this happened to me, like feel sorry for me because people get divorced every day.
Mm.
People lose their business every day. I'm not sure if people become paralyzed and break their back every day, but I just remember when we did have that conversation in the Royal about, I had them tortured. I was like, am I ever going to walk again? Like, can someone just please let me know? And they more or less said, we don't, it's not likely that you'll ever walk again. And I don't know, obtrusive thoughts came into my head. So
Mm.
I said, will I be able to twerk again? And it's just, I don't know. It was to kind of break that ice of the seriousness of the situation. But I think they all looked at me and thought she needs to go to a psychiatric ward instead of the spinal unit ward. But they were laughing as well, and they were like, "Well, hopefully a wee twerk," and that kind of helped me deal with it. But they went and I was crying and everything. Of course, like I just deal with things when I'm with people in humor.
Mm.
I'll talk about my divorce in humor. I'll talk about the loss of my business in humor, and I'll talk about breaking my back in humor as well.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. If I was told that my back was broken, I may not walk again. Geez, I don't know how I could be in humor in that moment. And something that I do
Mm.
integrate into my life is dark humor. I think it's very important to
Aye.
laugh through.
I think it's
It
such an
breaks it,
Irish
like,
thing as well,
yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
Like
Like it's.
we are known for our humor no matter what.
I think bringing humor into everything, it does help, like,
Mm.
and it also reminds you. I must say you as in me, like that you can't always take life so serious, you know? You're always going to
Aye.
have knocks.
I think that's why I'm so I use humor a lot now is because I went through so much trauma for years and my life was very serious and it was like OCD had me, so everything was, at this time everything had to be organized and I was nearly like an army sergeant and then when you go through something, things that I have gone through, it kind of knocks you back and you go, well, I'm not living life so seriously no more. I'm here to enjoy it. I'm not to, obviously I have to be serious in some aspects in life, but I'm so much more laid back and chilled out about life now.
Mm.
Whereas before, I would have worried about what people thought. I would have, been rushing and diving to do this and, be the best parent and be the best, anything and everything. Whereas now I'm just like, I'm just going at my own pace and I'm enjoying life. And I don't know if I had to go through all that drama to get to where I am now, but actually love the person that I am now,
Mm.
you know.
And if I was to say, like, who is that person today, Jenna, as opposed to the person 10 years ago?
Oh God, 10 years ago. Oh. Well, again, I am just so much more laid back. I um I am a brilliant parent. Like not that it wasn't 10 years ago, but my parenting style has changed now. I'm a fun mommy. 10 years ago I wouldn't have left the house. It would have been all indoor. Whereas now I'm out and about and always doing activities. Well, it's normally me standing at the bottom of a slide catching my son in the pool because I can't do anything else with my back. But I just loving I love life as this is so cliche, but I literally love life as if it's my last day because the day that I had the accident when I broke my back, I left my son to school that morning. Normal Wednesday morning, was it Wednesday? Friday, I can't remember. Normal school day, left him to school, kiss, see you later, and an hour later I was being blue lighted down to the Royal for emergency surgery, and that was me then for months paralysed. And it just kind of shocked me that, you know, that was such a normal day. And during that time that I was in the Royal, I had only left my marriage about 5 weeks before that. So my ex was holding my son. He wouldn't let him come visit me, and I wasn't getting to see him. So going from sleeping with your son every single night since the day he's been born, to not even getting to speak to him at all, had a huge impact on me and my son still to this day. Like my son will say, "Mummy, you coming back?" And remember the day that you didn't come back. And I always have to tell him where I'm going. Even in the house, I'll have to say I'm going to have to hang up a wash. I'm going to get a shower. And he's 9 now. I thought he would have grown out of that, but
Mm.
that affected his mental health huge in a huge way. And it was because the parent withholding. And
Yeah.
we often hear about it the other way around. We often hear, the female or the mom holding the child back, but men can do it too, but only, I suppose my situation was completely different. I was in a hospital. I was unable to even care for myself, but he took great pride in, you know, holding our son away from me, and he enjoyed me being completely devastated over it, which is just horrendous because he didn't realize the impact that it was having on our son
Mm.
as well.
You speak fondly of your son. You
Mm.
know, obviously he's been a huge part of your life, and
Aye.
as tough as everything was with the relationship you
Yeah.
had with your ex partner, um, something good came.
Or something good. That's what I would always say to people. I would be like, you know, as much as I don't like his dad, I know, I'm glad that we did have a son together because we have him and he's beautiful and he's amazing and he's smart and obviously so like me and nothing like his dad. I'm joking. Um, he, I often hear people say, my child saved my life or my children saved my life, but when I speak about my story, he literally did save my life because this was just after the breakup of my marriage, not long after, just before and between before I broke my back, and I lost my business. So I lost my income, the business that I'd worked on for years, and I had nothing. I was a single mom. I had no income. I was so broken down that I felt that the only way to make things better was if I removed myself out of the equation. Because even though I'd left marriage, I was still being abused through text or email or, one way or another. And I did actively did try and attempt to take my life. I drove to the bridge one night, and I can't remember driving there now, but I do remember I was holding my car keys and something fell off and hit me in the foot, and it was a hard whack. So I looked and I realized that I had no shoes on. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was raining, and I was like, "Where am I?" It was like I woke up and I bent down and picked up the thing that fell off my keyring, and it was a picture of my son on his first day of school, and I just looked at it and thought, what am I doing? I have my son. And it was nearly like, not that I had forgot about him, it was just that I didn't realize what I was about to do, how it would impact him. I was so selfish, and them moments of thinking,
Why do you think though that, to use the word selfish? Why do you think that you were selfish in that moment?
because I thought that my son would be better off without me.
Why did you think that?
I was being told that anyway. And um I was struggling. I had no income. I had a mortgage to pay. I was left with a mortgage to pay, and it was just so difficult that I thought that my son would be better off without me. I really believed that. And it wasn't until um I broke my back that I realized how much my son is attached to me
Mm,
and how much that would have affected his life. But that's how mentally unwell that I was, that I truly believed that my son wouldn't miss me.
yeah,
And it's so,
that's
so
mad.
sad. Aye,
Mad.
aye.
Sad too, like of
So
course.
sad, aye.
Yeah.
So sad. And that picture that fell that night, I got it printed out and I stick it on my fridge now. So if I'm ever having a bad day, I just look at that and it brings me right back to my worst moment, and I go, right on, it's not that bad.
Mm,
It's not that bad.
I know.
And Dan, and I'm showing that I'm here, I'm a role model for Dan, and I'm showing him a strong, independent woman, and you know, all that.
Yes, yes.
So he literally did save my life that night.
It's funny, like, because we can get sometimes caught up having a bad day, but
Mm,
like when you take a moment to think about it, like, is it really that bad?
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, are you on your deathbed or has a family member
no.
died? You know what I mean? And I think
Aye.
that's you could call a bad day because that is tough, when you're
Aye.
losing a family member. But if it's something going on in work or, I
Aye.
mean, they're trivial things, aren't they?
Aye. They really, really are.
Yeah.
And I go by this motto now, is if something that's happening now is not going to affect you in 5 years' time, then it's not worth worrying about.
Mm,
And I would have been a real worrier. I would have worried about anything and everything. Whereas now I'm like, right, okay, that's grand. What else? Help me,
yeah. Yeah.
help me. Like it's I don't know. When I speak to people who have been through, similar to what I've been through, traumatic events in their life, they all have this same outlook then, and it's all carefree, and you do not care what anybody else thinks because you've been through the worst. You've been called the worst names probably by yourself. I was my own biggest bully, and sometimes you need the trauma to become a better person, I feel, as well. And for you to start living your life authentically and for you and not for anyone else.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the problem a lot of people have is they're in that moment of that struggle, but they're not willing to face it. So they just keep living, accepting that
Yeah.
and being a victim,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of being the hero of their life,
Aye.
and facing it head on and or
Mm.
grabbing the bull by the horns,
Aye.
And I think if you do that, it
Aye.
definitely changes everything, doesn't it?
Well, I definitely, being the victim is not something that I ever wanted to be, but I remember I did have that victim mentality. After they told me that I'd never walk again, I just lay in the bed and I was like, no, I'm not getting out. I'm paralyzed. Sure, what's the point? Like, I'm not doing. And then after like 2 days, I was like, what am I doing? Try, like, get up and try. And like, I remember being hoisted out of the bed, and I remember it was a Saturday night because I remember looking at the clock thinking, everybody else my age is, probably going out or, maybe having Netflix with a partner, and, I'm being hoisted. This is my life for the rest of my life kind of thing. And again, something switched and I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. this isn't going to be your life, and you're going to make sure it's not. So, do you know the hospital bins? You know the way you have to push them with your feet?
Mm-hmm.
I had one of them beside my bed, so I would try my best to, like, during the night if I couldn't sleep, I was trying to push it with my legs. But it's a weird feeling when you're paralyzed. Your brain thinks you can run, but it's just not moving. So with physio and rehabilitation, my right hand side started coming back, and then that's whenever I really started going, right, oh my God, like this is happening for me. I think I might be able to walk again. And then my my left hand side isn't great. It's about 50% power, but I'm not, like, I will never ever complain about that. And like, I have to catheterize still, and I have a irrigation machine, like all my internal organs are paralyzed. And people say, oh, it's terrible, you're so young. And I'd be like, oh, absolutely no problem to me, because I'm walking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a big deal to me at all.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky I actually got a second chance at life again.
Yeah. Just being able to walk, like,
Being able to walk is just something that you take for granted. And uh, now I walk as much as I can. And if I'm in the house and, like, I'm going for my daily walk sometimes, not every day is a good day. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and butterflies and rainbows now, but you'd be like, I don't want to walk. I couldn't be fucking bothered to get my steps in the night. And then you go, mind you, we're paralyzed. And then before you know it, I'm up the key
mm,
going 90, going, no, that's it, you're walking. And then, so people always say to me, you're always on the go. You're always doing something. Like, like, I've launched a new podcast today. And that's why. It's because I am trying to cram as much into my life as I can, because you just never know when your time's
mm,
up, or your health is your wealth. Like, I could be paralyzed for life. I could be sitting in the house still in a wheelchair.
mm,
So I'm just so lucky. I'm so grateful that I am walking
yeah.
with spinal, and it's called an incomplete spinal cord injury because it didn't completely sever.
Yeah.
So I'm just blessed for that, grateful for that.
Yes, yes. I always think, well, I always not think, for me, I believe that gratitude is the secret
Mm,
to a happy, happy life, in the
aye,
sense that you can live, just being grateful for being able to see,
aye,
to be able to walk, to be
mm,
able to hear, to be able to
aye,
see. And I
aye.
think the more things you be grateful for, the more life gives you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I used to do like a practice of, like, I know it sounds cheesy or cringy, but like it really did help when I was able to write 10 things every day that I was grateful for, but I wouldn't write the same things every day. Was
Oh, every
finding
day was different, right?
I
Okay,
was
that's
so
a lot.
but what you see then is, you get to see so much more in life
Mm.
of the little things that you're grateful for. A cup,
Aye,
running water, a
aye,
fridge, all the things that a lot of us didn't have 100 years ago.
aye,
And you realize, Jesus, I have a lot, you know.
aye.
And yeah, it was a good change.
I know. I always, like, I'm not long back from holidays there with my son, and it it is, I'm not loving the spinal cord injury. It's so difficult. It is hard. I think the only person that really knows how hard it is my son, because he's with me all the time. So when we're on holidays there away, he would be helping me up and down steps and help me in and out of the pool, and things like that. And I was like, oh my God, no, is everyone looking at me, and do they think I'm drunk? Because if I'm walking in like, in my shoes now, I have things that, it's like an arch, so that
Orthotics.
I don't walk with so much of a limp. But if I'm barefooted, I'm really all over the place. So I was thinking, in this hotel, they're going to think I'm drunk and my son's looking after me. And I had to keep saying, I'm not drinking, I have a spinal cord injury. But then I seen a woman one day in a wheelchair, and I thought, oh my God, no, actually, I'm so grateful to be walking like a
Mm.
drunk woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, even stumbling around here, I'm so grateful for it. So you always get that bit of perspective, and you're like, no, that this is great the way I am,
Yes, yes.
even though it's not ideal, but
Yeah,
we'll
no.
roll with it.
It's the case of looking from, you seeing that woman in a
Yeah.
wheelchair, just like, I could have been that. So
Aye.
it's just like appreciating that you
Aye.
have,
Aye.
definitely. Um, you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You have a successful scents business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aye.
How did that start?
That actually started by accident. Um, so it was about 6 months. Everyone thinks it happened over lockdown, but it didn't. It was about 6 months before lockdown. And it was wax melts. I wanted to start making my own wax melts because um had lung problems when I was younger, and I remember the lung specialist saying to me, would you burn many candles? Because I don't smoke, and he was like, would you burn, many candles in the house? And I was like, yes, about 20 at a time. So he was like, that's paraffin wax, and if you're inhaling that in such a closed environment, it's not good for the lungs. And he was saying, there's soy wax candles and they're more natural. And I was like, oh my God, I never knew this. So there was soy wax candles, and I was like, I'm going to try and make my own. It was kind of like a hobby. And then my sisters loved them, and then my sister's friends loved them, and then before I know it, I was having like 180 orders a week. Like my house was there was a queue at my front door on a Friday. It was every Friday. It was pick up,
Mm.
and the business literally went from my kitchen for about 3 months to a warehouse, and then to a bigger warehouse, and then staff and stockists now, and it just went huge. So
They're all handmade.
all handmade. I so except for the soaps, I sell soaps, but they're not handmade by me personally.
Mm.
Everything else is all handmade. So there's like 15 product lines that I hand make, and then the staff they would label. Labeling is so long. I don't think anybody understands the amount of time labeling. But so that's what I mean. I'm always thinking about what's next, what's the next product, what can I make next? It's always for me, what's next, what can
Mm.
I do? What can I do more and more and more and more? And it's I love my job because I get to create, and it's like therapy for me. So I'll go into work and I'll do 12 hours making my favorite thing to do, and I'll listen to podcasts, and it's just like sometimes I'll be like, I can't believe this is my life. I am so lucky. Like I love this. How is this my life? And it's great, like doing something that you love. But I do work really, really, really hard for it. Like I've missed so much family events, and like my sisters would say, come here with us. And I'd be like, I can't work. And they'd be like, well, you're the boss, just don't work that day. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You have to sacrifice a lot. And over the summer there, my son, God love him, he was dragged to work with me as well. And I think he's the only kid that wanted to go back to school. He was like, what did I get to leave here? And but again, I have him trained and doing invoices. He knows how to label, he knows how to demold, he'll know how to work the till, the cart machine. So, I'm teaching him some valuable life skills. I've had to
Mm.
pay him.
Yeah.
He wants waged. So I had to
Yes.
pay him some wages. But I think it's important to teach from a young age,
Mm.
how life is. I don't want to give it too hard on influencers, because influencers it probably is a hard job. I don't know, but um, I want Dannon to know that you don't need to be an influencer. You have to work. You
Hmm.
have to work first, and then you can be an influencer. Just always make sure that you're covered. Your back's covered, basically. I think I had this conversation came up the other day about influencers, and I was like, I could never be an influencer because I can't even promote my own products. Like I'm so shy. I'm like, these are lovely. Try them. So I could never go on and be like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever used. It would be a really hard job, but I feel that's also showing the next generation, oh, I want to be an influencer.
Mm.
And there's no like real like no need to stay on at school anymore, or do you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
Uh like whereas we went, I don't know, did you go to uni?
I went to LYT, Letterkenny, so
Aye,
for a few years, but lived at home,
aye,
traveled up and down.
aye,
It's a wee bit different.
aye. So, well, everyone in my age group, that's what we did. We went to uni, and we that's not happening anymore. It's not,
Mm.
because people are, which is great. Online's great if you're making a good income from it too, I suppose. But I would like my son to have, something that he can always fall back on, because he's like, I want to be a YouTuber, which again, amazing if you can make it, but always have a backup plan in place
Yeah.
in case, just in case.
Yeah, it can be consuming too, the internet, you
Oh
know.
my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can get caught up with the likes,
Mm,
that all that,
mm.
the numbers,
Aye.
We talked about that.
And we did. Aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
you're just saying like social media too can be.
Social media, I always talk about social media because it's a blessing and a curse, more of a curse as well. But when I'm doing any type of talk about, you know, business or entrepreneurship or anything like that, I will always say, you know, don't concentrate on the amount of followers you have or the many likes that you get. Concentrate on your sales or how many people are looking to use your service. That's what you should be worrying about. I think people see a number and they're like, oh my God, they've got like such and such. Like people would say to me, would you not bring this person on your podcast because they have X amount of followers? And I'm like, no, like followers don't mean anything. You know, some of my best podcasts are from people who don't even have social media. So I wouldn't tend to be drawn into the whole how many followers they have kind of thing or how many likes they're getting kind of thing. And you know, obviously I do post. You have to post for as a business on a business page, but I never really worry about how many likes or anything it gets.
Yeah.
Would you? Would you tend to worry about things?
There's always a part like, oh, you know, I hope this people like this, you know, but no, I've got past that now. I'm just like, I'm just focused on having conversations with people that interest me.
Aye.
If people want to watch or listen, I mean,
Yeah.
great, but I don't have an expectation
Yeah.
of anyone to watch or listen because, yeah, that would only hold you back. Like,
Aye.
you know,
But social media as well, you have to post every day.
you do.
Consistent, like 3 times a day. And
Yeah.
I just don't have the time to do that. So it affects my views and stuff. But like I can't do it. I
Yeah.
just can't. Unless I have someone working for me. I can't afford that either. So
Yeah.
something has to give and numbers is not on social media is not something that I would really get sucked into. And I think social media in general, you know, people's photos as well. And I was just saying this on the way home from our holiday there that I was just speaking about. We were walking through the terminal and there was this family, mom and daddy and 2 wee daughters, and they were like all hugging each other and kissing each other. And I was like, oh my God, they all really love each other. It's like thinking in the back of my mind, will I ever have a family unit like that again? And then she got up, walked over and lifted her phone. So her phone was recording it. And then they just all got on their phones and walked on the plane. And then they were actually arguing on the plane then. And I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
One, that, like, I don't
Yeah.
like it. Like, what have you posted onto your
Yeah.
social media and what have I just seen kind of thing?
Yeah, I hear you.
So I tend, again, not to really look in too much to social media as well because we only post our best bits. I'm not going to post photos of me crying during rehabilitation because I can't lift my leg. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to post the one of me where I'm looking great at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, after my best session. So I suppose I'm part of the problem. I'm adding to the problem.
Yeah, I think it's just once you're being yourself, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard when you're going through a tough time. You can't share that, but you can talk. I always think you can talk about it in time.
Yeah.
And then that's where that comes in, you know.
Aye.
And that's what you're doing too. Like, so
Aye.
you're being yourself
Yeah.
effectively on social media. That's how I see it, you know.
Aye.
But Jenna, it's been a pleasure.
No, thank you so much. I'm honored that you thought of me and asked me. Come
No,
down.
well, I like your podcast and the
Thank
work
you
that
so
you're doing.
much.
So
And I love what you're doing as well too. It's amazing.
thank you very much. If people want to connect with you, they can find you.
So the Instagram is My Life and Me. It's just Instagram, and then I am on YouTube, Spotify, all major podcast platforms as well. And my new podcast launched today, Bumble and Butch, which is a comedy one. So completely different to the mental health or My Life and Me one. It's a complete contrast. So you kind of get to see more of my personality in the Bumble and Butch podcast. So that just launched today, and that can be found as well on all major podcast platforms as well.
And your business?
And my business. So that is in Skeg, Unit 28. We have a shop there. We're open 6 days a week, and we have a website, houseofsense.co.uk. We deliver and postage and packaging as well.
Brilliant.
So
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I enjoyed that.